everyone, welcome to Fika for Life! My name is Edward Thomas and my co-host is
Linh. Hello.
And today we have our studio audience again. Hey! Oh wow, we sound like even more people. And we are taking up part 2. We're talking about being modern men. And so we've invited back to our podcast 2 young men to continue talking about this whole idea of being a modern man. And today we have Mikael.
Hello.
And we have Joshua.
Yo.
So, and so we just want to try to get into it. Lynn, you have some good questions for us to get started with?
Well, so last time we talked about like how you guys felt to be like a young man at this time and age. And now we want to expand this to talk about being modern men. So men, not only young men, but even older men. So Ed can be just as part of this. So I was wondering actually, like, how do you guys define your manliness as being modern? Like, how does a modern man look like? What does make what
Yes.
what does it make? Well, how are you a real man? Like, what's
with a suit.
difference? What's the difference between a modern woman and a modern man?
And anatomically,
Yeah, which direction are we going here?
Well, they're obviously nowadays and all the
Yes.
what's it called LBTG blah
Yeah.
queer and everything. So yeah, I just want to set like the framework. What are we talking about? Like what's the difference between a modern man and a modern woman? So you brought up biology or anatomy, yeah.
Well, I think that there are only 2 types of human beings. I know that we're going to get a lot of flack about this. Men and women.
You just state your opinion.
Yeah.
So
But men and women, and I believe that there's a way that we complement each other, and then there are certain differences. Men have, we have a pretty high amount of testosterone in our bodies, which makes our bodies sound, we're all, and that makes our bodies very muscular. Testosterone also accounts for a certain level of being aggressive, the sex drive. There's a lot of things that are contributed to testosterone. That's just our biology. Can't do anything about it. It also means that the 2 halves of our brain don't communicate as well as it does with women, which also affects us if we have strokes and things like that. But it also means that we think slightly different. So men and women, traditionally, based on our biology, will probably perceive the same event slightly different because of the different biologies and chemistry of our brains. Mm-hmm. That's a little sort of background on that. But then this whole idea of being a man, traditionally men have defined themselves within the context of other men, which has been something that's been really different. That right now what's being defined, modern manhood is being defined by women. To a large degree, women are trying to say this is what a man should be like, and I think that at some point.
So can you give a bit of a summary there? What exactly do you feel that women say men should be?
Well, oh wow, I'm going to really get in trouble in this one, but I'm going to step out on the branch and say, I think that modern women are trying to define men to be more like women.
Can you give examples? I think.
Well, I think the whole thing that. So the whole thing about language, men and women traditionally don't necessarily communicate on the same way with language. And one of the aspects is to try to get men to communicate more like women in order for us to be able to communicate better. And instead of seeing those differences, so one of the things is to eradicate the differences between men and women by saying there is no real gender and that is a construct of society, which is not true. One of the things is trying to get men to become more expressive about their feelings, which I think is a good thing. I think, Josh, you talked about maybe like your dad's generation, the generation exactly at my generation or above, older, that men weren't given the permission or the space to talk about things, to talk about their feelings and connect in that way. But there's just, men don't, besides myself, men don't normally use as many words as women. It's still just all the studies point to that.
Yeah.
That as in a general rule, women tend to use more language, tends to use more descriptive language, more detailed language than what men tend to use in their communication. So right there, when we're trying to force men to come up to the level of women, you're already creating a trap.
Because it's hard for them to fill those shoes because they're biologically not wired.
Yeah, our brains just aren't. Our brains are not firing. And women, your brains are
fast.
like 2 halves, and we're like, one half is going like, I don't know what the other half is saying. What's up? I got half a brain
like
power.
Women's brains are like wires. Everything's interconnected, and men have boxes.
Exactly. Got 2 big boxes, a whole bunch of small boxes.
I'm in my watching hockey box, or I'm in my work box.
Exactly.
And the watching hockey box, work box, and relationship box are not related.
No.
Yeah.
Whereas women's everything is related.
Everything is related.
It's all touching each other. I'm like, wow, that's just what a mess.
Joshua, what do you feel are the requirements for you to be a modern man?
That's a really hard question. I've never thought of this before, so it might take me a bit to come
It's
up.
fine. Just brainstorm. It's not a test.
Yes, it is.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is. And if you fail, we'll kill you.
Is that how men talk to each other?
Hello.
Sorry. We'll burn you on the fire.
No, you
test
just
your
no,
manliness.
just beat my face in. That's
Oh yeah.
less successful.
We'll do like the gang thing. We'll beat you in. So it's like, okay, go join our men thing. We'll beat you in.
Anyway, that's really.
Well, I mean, if you need some more time to think about it, what
but
about
it's important. We'll get back to that soon.
What-
Ask me about beating in later.
what about then? What's the difference between traditional men or men before our time and modern men? How were men used to be? When everything was clear, everyone knew what a man was.
But it was clear, but it was also oppressive. So we have to deal with the fact, the history of manhood, especially in the West, that men were allowed to be oppressive. We're allowed to be racist. We're allowed to put women down, to actually think that other people could not have as much rights or as much space to grow as they actually could. So it's maintaining a certain dominance through really intimidation. So we have to deal with that. And we're saying, like, we're not saying that the old way, everything about the old way was bad, but not everything about the old way was good. So part of that, we talk about chivalry, the whole idea that a man would use his strength to protect those who could not protect themselves.
That'd be nice.
And what happened is that the feminist movement, in its desire to want to try to prevent men from being aggressive and punching the face of women, and being dominating and raping them, what happens is we threw out everything. And there were certain things about the old way of being a man that were important, such as the whole idea of protection.
But I mean, but the funny thing is what the general population still is attracted to. If you look at all the drama series like Outlanders, the women are screaming for this Jamie dude because he is a man. He is like wild. He is strong. He protects his woman. He goes after. He is aggressive in a way that we want him to be.
So let me ask you a question. You're a woman, and let's pretend you're single now.
Oh yeah.
So you're back on the meat market. Meat is available. Okay, and you're going to choose between 2 men. With one man, you're not really sure that if something were to happen, that he would put your interest at heart and protect you. If a robber jumped out of the bushes, he might say,
"Run!"
He might push you ahead and say, "Protect me." So
no one wants that.
So that's one guy, and then the other guy, you feel like if the robber came, he would actually put his life in the place of your life and protect you. He would use that extra strength, and you feel safe with him, but you don't feel intimidated. You still feel like you have.
He would never touch me.
No, but I mean, no. But you have space to. Your opinion matters. So there was a way in the old way for guys to be that it was only the man, and the woman has to adapt to what the man says. It's only the man's way. It's his way or no way. And in this way, I mean that your opinion matters. He cares about your opinion. He encourages your opinion, your participation. You guys are more partners, but you're partners based on differences. So you know that there's differences, and you use those differences as a complement to each other, instead of a competition. And I think one of the problems is that this new definition of being a man puts men in competition to women And I don't think that's correct. We shouldn't be in competition. We should be in complement. And in complement, and that's recognizing the differences and then using those differences to an advantage. So if you're smarter than me.
By the way, I would choose the other guy who would.
Oh, yeah, sorry. I was gonna think,
who would protect me.
and that's what I mean. I mean, so a modern man, I believe, the new way of defining a modern man is a man who is sensitive and caring. He can approach a child, and instead of being distant to the child or seeing the child as a problem, he sees that child as a gift, and his strength creates a safe space so the child knows this man would never raise his hand to harm me, but only raise his hand in order to protect me. So I don't need to fear him. I can respect him, but not fear him. A woman would never, even if the man got angry, she would never, ever think that this man would use his strength ever to intimidate, to threaten, or to harm her, because he only uses his strength to protect. So this is that acknowledging the strength. It
sounds so like
the strength of a man.
Perfect.
But acknowledging the strength of a man, that he has his strength, but he's defined the way in which that strength is used, and it's used to protect. He is an encouraging person. He would never, ever, even if the woman was smarter than him, he would never put her down because she's smarter. He would see her gift and allow a space and encourage that flourishing of her gift, and knowing that she's better than me in certain things. Please, I'm following you. Like, he's not intimidated by her gifts, whether her gifts are greater than his or more intense or more recognized than his.
But then
he doesn't have a fragile ego that he constantly needs to be propped up artificially, because he's so secure in himself and in who he is, and his own manliness.
I was thinking that because I think, especially in Sweden, maybe you have a lot of men who like leave space for the woman to do whatever she's good at, but then they have so bad self-confidence that they would never take on any other area of responsibility, because like, oh, you're good at this and that.
Right.
So they wouldn't take anything else because they just feel bad.
Yeah, so it's not an opting out. It's they're creating that space doesn't produce laziness or lack of initiative or lack of involvement. What it does is that space is an active decision to leave, to not hog all the space, and to make sure there's room for someone else in order to grow. So it's really about valuing and seeing other people, and it's not my way or the highway. It's let's find a way to reach a goal together. So when I'm describing these guys, you guys,
how do you feel?
how does this description? Is this something that you think, well, that would be a good thing to, as a young man, to work towards as I'm becoming a more mature and older man? Or does it sound like a bunch of crap? Or does it sound like, man, you're off base? We should just get together, hug each other, cry, and just say, oh.
You are asking leading questions here.
Sorry. Okay, we should not get together.
I would say like I don't know if it's the definition of a modern man, but for me, I strive to be responsible, but also respectful, and I've learned that. And I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be an involvement with women, but in having discussions with other people, is that to not be to not look down on other people because of their opinions, and just to be able to listen, but also to be kind of firm in what you believe. So, as a Christian, if you're talking with someone about science and stuff like that, it's like I can still listen to you, and I don't hate you because you believe in evolution. I respect where you're coming from, but I'm going to be very firm that I am not going that way.
Yeah.
So I think, like, for me, I want to be like respectful, and in terms of a relationship with a woman is be respectful, be supportive, be protective, be a leader. And I'm still trying to figure out how to be a good leader.
Yeah.
And to just be and to take responsibility, and to be willing to take responsibility, because I think that's something that we often shy away from, because we're scared of failure, and especially it seems like it seems as like it's almost like sexist to want to take responsibility. I don't know. I
think we're afraid of being being called sexist. We're afraid of being called, these certain labels now that we're afraid of. And so if you don't take responsibility, you don't take leadership, you don't take ownership, then what happens, you can never get in trouble. But it's a cowardice, way. You're sort of opting out again, and you're not participating in life. You're not making things happen. So we have to avoid that. And I think
maybe
what you're
that's
saying,
what also makes so many men depressed and like looking around in life. What's the purpose? What's the purpose of life?
I think men want to fight. I think that, and I don't mean beating people up. I think a man, and I think men in general,
they want to struggle.
They want to struggle for something that's worth living and dying for. I think the whole concept of something that's struggling through something that could potentially kill us is very
it's something manly.
No, but it's bonding for men.
Yeah, I think so too.
And that's why young boys, you get young boys together. I've observed this thing now as I'm leading my choirs and stuff. I've got the young boys are constantly wrestling with each other and jumping on each other. And in a way, I just don't see a lot of the young girls doing. Every now and then a girl will throw herself in there, but for the most part, the young girls are really a lot more nurturing and caring. Mm-hmm. I know this sounds really generalizing. I'm just convinced as I'm traveling around the world.
You're just talking empirically from your experience.
From my experiences, is what I was observed, and I think that one of the things for modern men is to find the thing that's worth living and dying for. You cannot let yourself be hoodwinked, or fooled into thinking that when you opt out, that somehow you're being a man. You're not. You're being a wimp. And guys, let me just tell you, women don't like wimpy men.
Wimpy men. Society encourages wimpy men.
Yeah, exactly.
That's an interesting thing.
But it encourages men to be boys, not to be men, not to mature. I mean, if you look at all the TV shows, so all the TV shows are always encouraging these men who are in their late 20s, early 30s, who are totally incapable of living life. Like, you would not want that person to be the role model for your children. You would not want to be stuck with that person because you got a child that you have to take care of, as opposed to a partner with whom you can create, form, and live life together with. Mm-hmm. What do you say, Mikael? Are you hearing all this stuff? How do you feel? Give us the Swedish perspective, man.
Like what Ed is describing, like what he thinks a modern man is, like both caring but also protective. Do you feel like you are on the way to becoming that man, or do you feel like, I still have a lot to do before I get there?
I think I'm coming in a long way, but I think it's a lot more I have to learn. Mm-hmm. And in my future, I want to guide kids. I want to guide people. I want to be a missionary in India, China.
You want to live a dangerous life, man.
Yeah, I want to.
He's found the thing to live and die for.
I want to hike in the jungle and walk up in the mountains and walk to the tribes and learn from them. And then I learn them about stuff.
Yeah.
And when I got a lot of experience, then I want to get...
what's the Swedish word?
It was just gone.
Okay.
Good.
Maybe you want to pass it on.
Disciple. I want to get disciple, and I want to train them and learn how to be missionary in a hard way.
The hard way.
How to hike, how to talk with people with different culture, and how to,
of course.
If you fail, what are you gonna do about that? If you broke your back, what you gonna do about that?
Sounds noble.
Can I say a thing?
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
I think what I've noticed, maybe this is more in a church or Christian environment, is that it seems like men now, like I said, they don't want to take responsibility, and like we call a man child till they're like 25. And then they get married and like, all right, I gotta maybe start maturing a little bit. And they you realize that so late. And I guess the way like church works at home is like, whether you like it or not, as a man who is a Christian, you will have to be a leader at some point in your life. If you like,
probably
for the most part, like if you get married, you're called to be a leader. You're called to be the head of the house.
Ooh,
that doesn't mean
I'm gonna get a lot of letters now. Here he comes. What did he just say? Get him, girls.
Doesn't mean
sexist.
And then, like in a church context, and you've stressed this so much across culture, is that like you can't work as a community if you don't have people working. Like if you don't have people putting time in, and being willing to step up. And what I'm seeing in the youth, in the younger people, and people my age, is that they're not willing to step up. And if you're not willing to step up, I'm a little nervous about what's going to happen in the next 30 years. Yeah. So, yeah.
Well, and I think it's really important what you're saying, Josh, because it's you talked about being reliable and being responsible, and stepping up. That's how you become reliable and responsible. You have to take responsibility. People have to be able to depend upon you. I have to know you're going to come. It frustrates me when I meet some of these young guides and they're all, I want to be the leader. I'm like, okay, well, you need to serve. What? We're going to do work? What? Yes, you need to show up. You need to set up the table, set up the chairs, get stuff done. What? I'm like, well, that's part of being a leader is that you have to put the work in. You have to be reliable.
You have to lead by example.
Yeah, you have to lead by example. And the whole thing about respect is really important. So because of the testosterone thing, a guy can appear to be really aggressive. And one of those things I feel that as a man is I have to tame my aggressiveness. Every response I give, every behavior I make, I am responsible for that. And I need to take ownership of that. That's self-leadership, and you're taking self-initiative where I'm taking the initiative for my own life, forming the person I'm going to become, feeding the behavior that I think is good and nurturing. And if you don't do that, what happens is you become this boy man who's basically a spoiled child in an adult body. And all he does is ruin the life of his family. He burns his wife out because she spends all this time running around trying to take care of him, making him do the things that he should do. Go get a job. Go take a bath. Get clean. Take care of the kids. Make sure you buy, like, why would I get married? I would never get married to someone who's just another piece of dead weight in my life. If I get married, I'm going to get married to someone who is a real partner, carries their load. A real partner you can share a life with. A real partner, you know that when the chips are down, you can depend upon them.
But then there would be a lot of people single, like both Christians, non-Christians.
Oh, yeah.
If that would be a requirement to get married,
I think it should be.
A very few people would be married.
I think a lot of people. I think it's right that some people are single, because if you can't take care of yourself, you're not going to take care of me. And really, we're talking about, this whole idea is that, think about it, ladies. Just throw this out there. In the time that's left, wouldn't you? And Wright doesn't tell us. Wouldn't it be nice if that when you met a guy, you knew what he stood for?
That'd be nice.
You knew what kind of person he was. You know where his character. He's got such character, so easily defined character. You know if he's kind or not. You know if he's a player or not. You know if he's a jerk or not. You know that here's a guy, he can become upset with you without becoming violent, angry, or oppressive. Like he can say, well, I don't agree with you. And you feel like it's okay. You don't feel like you have to adapt yourself to this person because you don't want them to punch their fist through a wall or something like that. And when you think about the future, this person who could potentially be the father of your children, you're like, if I have a son, I want him to be kind of like that. I want to take after that. Isn't that a good thing? Listen, guys, you need to grow up. And you need to some of you need to contact us older men. Some of you need to take a bath. Some of you are you're like big, gigantic boys. When I was a young boy, I went outside, I played with the dogs and cats. I ran outside in the mud. I came home all sweaty and stinky. That was fine when I was a boy. It does not work in the adult life. Some of you need to get a haircut, take a bath, trim your beard.
Get a job.
Get a job.
Not just get a job. Hold a job. You need to get your lazy butt up. And this is my preaching now. You need to get your lazy butt up in the morning. You brush your teeth. You eat your breakfast. And you go to work. And you work a whole day. And you come home. And you know what? And you say, okay, what things do I need to now do in the house? You don't opt out because you had a whole day at work. You know, you be prepared for life. If you're a man, and you know, if you have a handicap or something like that, that's totally okay. But let's just say a man who can make food, you need to make at least 10 dishes. If you don't know how to make 10 dishes, you are a waste. You are because you're dead weight. If you don't know how to wash clothes, dead weight. If you don't know how to go grocery shopping, dead weight. If you don't know how to pay bills, dead weight. If you don't know how to pay your bills on time, and all you can do is amass debt, but you can't pay off, you can't live within your means, you are dead. Ladies, you find a guy like this, run. He is dead weight, and all he's going to do is bring you down with him.
Make your life miserable.
Yes. Okay. How's that sound, you guys? I hope you don't feel like okay, I need to get out of here and take a man class. You know?
I just think about the school, and we have a deadline, but we can do the homework after the deadline. So
see,
school is not preparing you for life.
No responsibility. No, that's so horrible.
So I just do a little of the homework, then I just waiting a little while, and then do it after.
Yeah.
Because my friend got better degree than I had, because I just send this homework in time.
Yeah. And I think this is why video games attract so many men. This is why gangs attract so many men, because it gives you this sense of purpose, something to live and die for, even if it's fake. To live and die for something fake, a video game, a TV game, is better than a life without that. So I don't know. What do you say, Josh? You got anything at the end now?
I don't know. Yeah, I'm totally in like what you're saying. I think there's a lot of truth to it, and I really hope that men will. They need to step up and quit being useless. Like
exactly.
I don't know. Honestly, like it's
true.
It's just. And I was gonna say this, and maybe this would open up a whole other can of worms. But I think the problem that we're getting now is that these men have no role model because were raised by a single mom, or
we men failed them. That's what it is.
And I think that is becoming so much more common that the role of what a man is supposed to be is becoming blurred to the point that a man at 10 has no idea what a man should do.
Yeah.
And then that's considered in society to be okay because, you just do whatever you feel is right, or it's so open to interpretation. But you see the level of failure in boys and men that don't have a father that was there. So that's another, that's a whole another
can
thing.
of worms.
How about this? And now we have to end our time here today, but I'd like to throw something out there and get some feedback. Man camp. 1 month of camp with Ed and his men.
Yes.
And we, and one of the things is just to get men to break out of this boy thing, take the initiative, learn all these different things, learn these different skills, learn how to connect. It's okay for a man to connect with your feelings and stuff. You don't have to over describe it, but I think women like men who say, hey, I'm happy, I'm really glad to be with you, I really appreciate you, instead of, good. Do you like me? Okay, that was thanks for the conversation. There wasn't much there. Okay, so Man Camp. I don't know if we'll be able to do it in 2019, but Man Camp 2020. Get ready. Put on your calendars, guys. One summer. You come from all over the world. Come to Sweden. And when you leave here, you will be...
You're a man.
A man.
Good man.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, guys, for participating on our podcast. Write to us. Let us know what you think. Give us more subjects to talk about.
Oh, yeah.
Lynn, thank you very much for today.
For listening. Yes, thanks.
Yes, for listening. It was so good to have a woman's voice in this conversation of testosterone. Thank you very much, everyone. Fika for life.
Fika for life.
Fika for life.
Thank you for listening. If you have any comments or ideas, please send us a message to fikaforlife@mail.com. Fika, F-I-K-A. This was the Fika for Life podcast with Linh Nguyen and Edward Thomas, and we hope to hear you again.